world is changing faster than we are able to comprehend it. What until recently was perceived as an adventure or as a way to test oneself can today present a deadly threat. Right now, an overview of the most extreme events of the past week and of what we will soon have to give up. Storm Claudia. A powerful low-pressure system that caused abnormally early cold and snowfalls in Canada and the United States at the beginning of November crossed the Atlantic and reached Europe. The Spanish Meteorological Service named the storm Claudia. In Spain, in the region of Galicia, up to 150 millimeters of rain fell within a day from the 11th of November, flooding streets and causing local rivers to rise rapidly. By the 14th of November, warm, humid air met a cold mass from northern Europe, resulting in a long band of rain stretching from Western Ireland all the way to Russia. Portugal was struck by the storm with devastating force. Not far from Lisbon, in the town of Fernão Ferro, water rushed into the home of an elderly couple during the night. They were unable to escape and died. In the district of Faro, rains and wind gusts of up to 112 kilometers per hour led to widespread tree falls and power outages. In the village of Azeitão, a road collapsed due to a landslide, completely blocking traffic in both directions. The most dramatic episode occurred in Albufeira, a popular tourist city in southern Portugal. Here, a tornado formed and struck the hotel restaurant in the morning, just as several dozen people were having breakfast. Among the 28 injured were 6 children, ranging in age from 2 months to 7 years, and 4 people were taken to the hospital with serious injuries. The whirlwind also tore through a campsite, taking the life of a woman who was inside a motorhome. On the 15th of November, a new tornado hit the municipality of Silves, leaving 2 people without a roof over their heads. More than 3,300 weather-related incidents were recorded in the country. Reaching the United Kingdom, Storm Claudia caused significant flooding in England and Wales. The town of Monmouth received almost 120 millimeters of rainfall overnight, exceeding the monthly level. The River Mono broke through protective barriers, and on the morning of the 16th of November, residents found most areas submerged. In England, dozens of flood warnings were simultaneously in effect. In the south, the situation became so severe that railway lines were closed due to fallen trees and high water levels. In Ireland, the storm hit County Wexford and County Loa particularly hard. Overflowing rivers flooded homes and businesses, and about 5,000 people were left without power. In France, Storm Claudia caused an unusual temperature rise for this time of year. In the southwest of the country, the air warmed to nearly 30 degrees Celsius, setting a new November record. Italy. During the period from the 14th to the 17th of November, the north of Italy faced extreme weather conditions. The greatest damage occurred in Liguria, Tuscany, and Friuli Venezia Giulia. The bad weather was especially destructive in Liguria. In the port of Genoa, a powerful tornado overturned cargo containers as if they were light boxes. On the stretch of coastline from Voltri to Sestri Ponente, a microburst destroyed buildings and uprooted trees. One of them paralyzed the operation of the Sant' Anna funicular, and in the area of Pegli, a wall collapse led to a shutdown of gas and electricity. Within a matter of hours, approximately 240 millimeters of rain fell in the upper part of Genoa. The Figino River burst its banks, flooding underpasses and damaging transport infrastructure. In the region of Tuscany, large-scale flooding began due to severe thunderstorms. In Friuli Venezia Giulia, on the 17th of November, meteorological stations recorded in 6 hours an amount of precipitation equal to almost 1.5 months of the norm. Tragedy could not be avoided. In Brazzino di Cormons, a landslide destroyed 3 houses, taking the lives of 2 people. In the locality of Versa, about 300 people had to be evacuated because the Torres River overflowed its banks. The authorities declared a state of emergency. Saudi Arabia. From the 12th of November, a series of powerful storms covered most of the territory of Saudi Arabia. Precipitation was recorded at 49 meteorological stations in the country. In certain regions, authorities declared a red level of danger. The coasts were hit especially hard, with wind gusts reaching up to 50 kilometers per hour and waves rising to 2.5 meters. The heaviest rains fell in the Mecca region, where in the city of Al-Qunfuda, more than 32 millimeters of precipitation fell within a day. Mud flows flooded the streets, obstructing traffic and forcing drivers to abandon their cars. Even heavy trucks barely moved on the roads due to the rain and strong, gusty winds. In Al-Muwai, a locality with a very arid climate, where the average annual precipitation is only about 30 millimeters, 80% of the annual norm fell in a single day. In the province of Medina, the industrial zone of Yanbu, one of the world's largest oil refining and petrochemical complexes, came under the brunt of the storm. The elements disabled part of the high-voltage transmission line supports, disrupting the facility's power grid. Middle East. On the 13th of November, a storm hit Israel, replacing the record warm and dry weather of the beginning of the month. In cities in the north of the country, intense rainfall with thunderstorms led to flooded streets. In some places, hail was recorded. Near Palmachim Beach, a rare waterspout formed, and in Binyamina Givat, Ada lightning struck a tree, igniting it instantly. By evening, the intensity of the rainfall increased. On the coastal stretch between Hadera and Ashkelon, 61 millimeters of rain were recorded within 1.5 hours, causing rapid street flooding. In Tel Aviv, a person was hospitalized in moderate condition after falling from a wet balcony. In Jerusalem, strong winds knocked down trees. Due to heavy rain, Ben Gurion Airport announced flight delays. By the morning of the 14th of November, the storm had fully engulfed the country. The Meteorological Service warned of flash floods, and the Ministry of Health, fearing sewage contamination of the sea, introduced a temporary ban on swimming. The same storm triggered a disaster in the Gaza Strip. During the night of the 14th of November, overcrowded camps for displaced people were flooded. Roads turned into rushing streams, and intense water rose above 10 centimeters. People under flimsy canvas roofs woke to find their beds floating in cold mud. Over years of armed conflict, water supply and sewage infrastructure had been severely damaged, causing sewage and waste to flow into the camps together with the rain. Municipal services were recording several hundred calls per hour, but their response capacity was nearly exhausted. Under the weight of the rain, numerous tents collapsed, and residents spent the entire night reinforcing them, bailing out water and salvaging their last belongings. The storm in Gaza led to a humanitarian catastrophe, and this is only the beginning of the winter season. Indonesia.
Satu orang warga dilaporkan masih hilang.
On the 13th of November, after heavy rains, a major landslide occurred in Cilacap Regency of central Java province. Ground subsidence in some places reached 2 meters, and the resulting fissure stretched for 25 meters. The landslide buried dozens of houses, 8 of which collapsed completely. The affected area amounted to about 6.5 hectares. Destroyed and blocked roads made it difficult for rescuers to reach the affected zone. 520 rescuers and 19 dogs were deployed in the search for survivors. In certain spots, the layer of displaced soil reached up to 8 meters, so 21 excavators were used. Continuous downpours and strong gusty winds seriously complicated rescue operations. The tragedy claimed the lives of 16 people, and 7 more are listed as missing.
Saru ini tak kuasa menahan kesedihan saat alat berat menggali.
South America. On the 17th of November, an extratropical cyclone struck Patagonia, causing several emergencies in Argentina, Chile, and neighboring countries. In the city of Comodoro Rivadavia, the disaster exceeded all the limits that residents hardened by fierce northern winds had long considered normal. Official measurements recorded wind gusts of up to 150 kilometers per hour. Powerful squalls knocked down trees, tore off roofs, destroyed buildings, and ripped apart power lines. The city was left without water supply, institutions were closed, airport operations were disrupted, and repair crews worked at the edge of their capabilities. At the oil fields in Cerro Dragon, measuring instruments showed an enormous 312 kilometers per hour for an extended period, and individual gusts reached 352 kilometers per hour. The impact of the extratropical cyclone spread far beyond Patagonia. It caused an anomalous phenomenon striking in both its power and scale. Extremely strong gusts lifted massive amounts of fine solid particles from the dried-out lands of Patagonia, forming a giant dust cloud. It passed over eastern Argentina, reached Uruguay, and traveled as far as the coast of the Brazilian state of Rio Grande do Sul. Usually, dust and smoke reach these regions from the north. Almost every year, winds bring them from Brazil's forest fires, but a dust plume arriving from the south became an unprecedented event. In southern Chile, the cyclone turned into a tragedy. In Torres del Paine National Park, the storm hit the remote Los Perros campsite, located 4 to 5 hours on foot from the nearest transport point. A group of tourists climbing the John Gardner Pass was caught in a heavy snowfall with nearly zero visibility and winds reaching up to 200 kilometers per hour. Rescuers did everything possible, but only 4 people survived. 5, unfortunately, lost their lives.